Hey, good morning. Good morning. Good day. Hello. We're going to talk about a very serious subject today. And it's a serious subject for everyone that even hears this video. So, first, a little disclaimer. I'm not a financial advisor. Uh, I'm not trying to tell you what to do, what to buy, what not to buy, any of those things. I'm just talking about my experience and my knowledge. And trying to share it with others so they can have information, they can be informed, and they can have enough information and do research and make their own decisions of what they would like to do for themselves and their family. Because, see, I'm all for protecting our family. Now, this is going to be very valuable for those who call themselves preppers. And this is going to be very valuable for those who who would like to protect themselves from financial catastrophes, for the short term until things can get back in equilibrium. So today we're going to talk about a very valuable subject, uh, and it's called constitutional silver. I don't know if anyone's ever heard of that term, but we're going to talk about constitutional silver. If I can pull up the screen again, get my screen to share properly. There we go. So let's talk about constitutional silver and what that means. Well, another name for that is junk silver. Now, what is junk silver? Junk silver is silver minted coins, not 100% silver, by the U.S. Mint, and we called it just change at one time in our life. And all dimes, quarters, 50-cent pieces, dollars that were coins, dollar coins, produced 1964 and earlier contain 90% silver. Now, there is a nickel called a war nickel that was produced between 1942, 1943, 1944, and 1945. It contained 35% silver. Not a lot of people know that, but that's a very important nickel. 35% silver is pretty cool. And then you had the Eisenhower dollar that was done from, let's say, 1971 to 1976. That's 40% silver. Okay. And uh, you also had the Kennedy half dollar. Now, I'm telling you about these that are after 1964. And that would be the Eisenhower dollar that I just talked about. And now the Kennedy half dollar, now from 1965 to 1970. Now I'm going to give you a list of these, so don't worry about that. But and it's going to be provided here, and you're going to see that here on this presentation. So you'll have a list, you can take screenshots, and you can print them out, whatever you'd like to do. But you do need to know this, and you do need to have this list because I'm going to give you the actual silver content in these coins. Now, most of these not, we're going to talk about mostly just the 90% silver, what is called constitutional silver or junk silver, as it's referred to in the industry. And why do they call it junk silver? Well, it's because its real worth is what is called its melt value. So if you melt it down, the 90% silver coins are mostly contain 90% silver, 10% copper. Okay, so when you melt it down, you separate the copper and separate the silver, then you have your real silver content. And when these are minted new, each one of the coins uh, would contain, uh, each of the 90% silver coins, and it would contain uh, 90% silver. Okay. But the amount of silver in each coin, of course, would be different between a dime, a quarter, a half dollar, and a dollar. Okay. Obviously, the dollar would contain the most in it. It's 90% silver, and it would contain 0.77344 troy ounces of silver. Whereas, let's say a dime would contain 0.07234. Now, don't worry about the numbers. I'm going to give you these, but more importantly, I'm going to give you a formula, how you calculate the the silver content, so you become knowledgeable about junk silver. And why do you need junk silver? Well, here's what the preppers say, and I agree with them. I think everyone needs to have a minimum amount of junk silver, and we're going to talk about where you can buy it from. And those of you that are members of 7K with us, okay, that you can buy it, and even if you can't afford to get what you need all at one time, but you can buy in incremental amounts, meaning coin at a time or two or three coins at a time, and I recommend people do this. Now, you're not going to find it out in the marketplace any longer. I mean, it's just that's like finding a needle in a haystack, and I'm talking about a huge haystack. Okay, today, you know, banks, retailers, everybody's pretty smart that the content of the silver, and we'll talk about that too, how just a dime, a Mercury dime or a Roosevelt dime, okay, uh, those would have a value at over $2 each, just the silver content. So don't you wish you'd have been saving all that? Those coins, just kept them in that coin drawer where you took your change. I remember the day where I used to, have a pocket full of change. I just come home, put it in a big old jar, and then we'd take that jar and we'd cash it in when we were going to college, started our working life off. I didn't want to carry around a pocket full of change, so whatever change I had in the day came in and it just went in that jar, and then we'd cash it out and we'd pay bills with it and things like that. Man, I wish I hadn't done that. I wish I'd have followed my dad's advice. Is he'd go to the bank, get bags of coins, and we'd be separating them at the table. And that's part of what I had to do with my dad. See, my dad was what you call an old time coin collector. And, he went by the dates, but he also separated the silver from the other ones uh, after they stopped putting the silver in it after 1964. Now, I graduated from high school in 1964, but my dad became a real advocate in doing this until he died, going to the bank, getting bags and bags of quarters, dimes, 50-cent pieces, uh, and dollars if they were available. After a while, those weren't even available anymore because people got smart real quick. Well, anyway, let's talk about why this is important. Well, North Carolina and part of this hurricane disaster, uh, where there's no electricity, you couldn't use credit cards. Uh, these coins came into play along with currency, like paper currency. And in fact, dollar bills were more valuable than a dollar in terms, and nobody had change. So you needed to buy stuff. You had to give up maybe a little bit more than you wanted to get what you wanted. Uh, Silver, people recognize this globally, really. In fact, that's another part of the subject we're going to talk about today in constitutional silver is it is because this has become unfortunately these type of coin, there's a lot of counterfeit in the marketplace now. Oh, and of course, you know where it comes from. China, yeah. India, yeah. Mostly from China, though, these. Okay. And so now beware. You want to buy from trusted sources. You want to know how to test even junk silver to make sure you're not getting any fake. Well, the best thing is to just buy from trusted sources. And we're going to talk about that today. Okay. So, why do you need junk silver? Because when currency and credit cards and all that kind of stuff doesn't work, guess what? You got something everybody knows is worth something. Everybody. And those that don't will learn quickly its value. That's why I say for preppers, most of them already kind of know most of this stuff. So if you're not a prepper, maybe you ought to think about a little bit of security. Doesn't everybody believe in having a little extra food at home, a little extra way get water, a little extra, in protection? So, hey, this is valuable for that. I think my personal opinion, I think everyone needs a minimum of $100 face value of junk silver, 90% silver. 1964 and earlier, dimes, quarters, 50-cent pieces, dollars. And I think you need some of the quarters and dimes more because they're smaller quantities and you won't have to give up so much to get what you need. So you have exchangeable forms of, of, of currency, but not as its face value as its silver content. So let's get right to it. These I showed you the pictures of it. So let's just talk real quickly a little bit. Now, remember, this is going to be provided for you in this. So let's look at that war nickel first, and it contains that war nickel contains 0.05626 ounces of silver, each one of those nickels. Okay, now its face value is a nickel, 5 cents, but its silver content value, based on the current spot price of, let's just say, a spot price of $30. It's more than that now, but let's just say that nickel is worth $1.70. Whoa! How about that? That nickel, $1.70. That's its purchasing power. Okay. Now, the two dimes we have pre-1964 are the Roosevelt dime and the Mercury dime. Well, it's just a matter of when they were produced. Okay. The Mercury dime was produced first from 1916 to 1945, and then they started producing the Roosevelt dime from 46 to 64. Okay. But each one of those contain 0.0723 troy ounces of silver. Well, in terms of value, that dime at a $30 spot price is worth over $2.20 each. Just that dime for silver content. So that's purchasing power. Okay. Now you're starting to understand why everybody needs to have a little bit of junk silver kind of stashed away on the side. And if you don't have it, I think it'd be a good idea to start accumulating some until you get some minimum amounts required. I think that might be, well, this is the best part of silver stacking. Okay. The Kennedy half dollar. Okay. Now, that Kennedy half dollar, though, is got two of them. You got the 1964 one, now that contains 90% silver. That Kennedy half dollar has 0.36169 troy ounces of silver in it. And that Kennedy half dollar would be worth $10, $11 at a $30 spot price, at a melt price. $30 for that one Kennedy half dollar. Isn't that amazing? Well, the Kennedy half dollar from 1965 to 1970, now that only contains 40%. But yet that contains 0.1479 ounces of silver in each one of those coins. And that coin alone is worth $4.50. Amazing, isn't it? Don't you wish you'd have saved all those suckers? It went through your hands? But more important, that Washington quarter, 1932 to 1964, that Washington quarter has 0.18084 ounces of silver, and that little sucker is worth $5.50. Isn't that amazing? $5.50 each for a quarter. 25-cent piece. Amazing, isn't it? that Franklin, we keep on going down the list here. This one right here to Franklin, it has 0.3617 troy ounces of silver in it. So that is 90% silver. Okay. It was done before 1964. And the Walking Liberty, 1916 to 1947, contains also 0.3617 troy ounces, 90% silver. Now, what is it? 90% silver, 10% copper. Okay. Now, the peace dollar, 1921 to 1936, that contains the full amount, 0.7734 troy ounces of silver. And then the Morgan dollar that came after that replaced that. That is 90% silver. Also contains 0.7734 troy ounces of silver. But look, that Morgan dollar, that Morgan $1 face value, with that 0.77344 ounces of silver, or that peace dollar at $30 melt value spot price of silver, is currently worth $23.25. Whoa! That $1 is worth $23, and it's junk silver. So it's not very junky, is it? But it's worth having. That's its spending power. That's what's important. Now, if the spot price of silver increases, then absolutely these coins, because of their silver content, increases likewise. Okay, it's because it's all based on price. So here's that formula. So, this is a formula to make sure you write down, you memorize, the amount of silver in junk silver if is face value times 0.715. 0.715. I'm going to give you another multiplier in a minute, and you'll understand why. And all you're going to need is a calculator like this, or a calculator on your phone, and you can always figure out the amount of silver in any accumulation of coins, if they're 1 or a combination of them, because all you have to do is add up the face value. And we'll talk about that and give some illustrations. Now, I want you to understand that originally these 90% coins, mint fresh, uncirculated, they would contain 0.723 troy ounces of silver, but they've been circulated, they've been used, they've been worn out. Sometimes you can hardly see it. So the melt value is what's important here, and this has become an industry standard. You're not going to get more. That when you want to sell these coins, when you want to use these coins as silver contact value, this is the standard that's recognized throughout the industry, throughout the world. Okay, and it's because the coins are old, worn. Now, some of them have a little bit more, some of them have a little bit less, depending on its condition, but nobody's going to look at condition. They're really looking at melt value. Okay. So you really can't get much more than this, and that's what you want. So once you determine the quantity of silver, you multiply it times the spot price, and that's the price you should receive for it. Okay. So let's just say you had a Morgan dollar. Okay. So the face value is $1. Well, let's say you had 10 of them. That'd be $10. So you'd have $10 times 0.715, or you'd have 7.15 ounces of silver in your hand total, and you'd take 7.15, multiply it times, let's say the spot price. We'll look up the spot price today, but let's say it's 31.80. Okay, and you multiply it times that, and you would say you have $227.37 worth of silver in those 10 Morgan dollars or 10 peace dollars. Well, let's say you had 10 mercury dimes. That's $1. Well, let's say you had 100 of them. That's $10. Same thing. Doesn't matter if you have 100 mercury dimes or 10 silver dollars, Morgan silver dollars. You still have the same amount, 7.15 ounces of silver. Well, same thing in quarters. Let's say you had 4 quarters make $1. Well, to have $10 worth, you got 40 Washington quarters, 1964 or early, we still have 7.15 ounces of silver. So you multiply it times the spot price, and they're worth 200. So in essence, what you can do is you can add the face value of all your junk silver, 90%, just 90%. You can't do the 40% coins. You can't do the war nickel at 35%. You just have to do the 90% coin, add all of its face value, multiply it times 0.715, and you'd have the quantity of silver. So in and I'm fixing to give you the formula for determining the price, like I just went over with you. So I wanted to give you enough time that you can take a screenshot of this, you can admit it, you can write it down, and this is something you have to know, okay? Because if you ever have to start using it, believe me, you got to know what you're talking about. But everybody else is going to get educated real quick. Now, many of the people already know all this stuff, okay? Especially when it comes to constitutional silver or so-called junk silver. Okay, so I just gave you the industry standard formula for buying and selling price. That sucked. Okay, now when you buy, you can't buy at that price. Nobody's going to sell you at that price. No, none of the dealers are. They're going to sell you at a little bit of premium, just like our, bullion rounds or bullion bars or American Eagle or Maple Leaf. There's a premium that comes up. Well, that they're selling to make a profit. Okay, but you can get really good prices. It's how much above spot you pay is what's important. Okay. But if you can get it at spot, then you better test every coin you buy. Because why would a person be selling a spot unless you buy it from an individual? If you buy it from an individual, I'll guarantee you better test that coin. Okay. And you better learn how to test coins. If you're buying from, let's say, non-trusted sources, and you might be your best friend, but are they going to give you a written guarantee if any of these coins prove to be fake, they're going to reimburse you? uh, uh, Test and verify when it comes to silver. Okay. Especially these days. So here's the price. 0.715 times the coin's face value. This is 90% silver only, junk, pre-1964, 90% silver. US dimes, quarters, 50-cent pieces, and dollars, 1964 and earlier. Times the coin's face value total, add it all together, times the spot price plus the premium, and that should be the price you pay if you're buying junk silver. So when you buy junk silver coins from a company, you will likely pay more than the melt value for the coins because they're in the business to make a profit, cover their costs, selling, collecting, and then selling. They're going to buy without a premium. So when they buy it from you, if you sell back to these companies that we're going to talk about today, well, the highest they're going to give you is 0.715 times the coin's face value times spot. That's the highest they're going to give you. Now, most of them will try and get a little bit less than that from you. But I always tell them that, hey, look, my coins have a little bit more than 0.715 in it. And you know it, and I know it. It doesn't have the 0.723. I agree with you. It doesn't have the 0.7234, but it's got a little bit more. So I try and get as close to the spot if I'm selling as I possibly can. Okay. And like that just becomes good negotiating. So when you sell your junk coins to a company, it's expected you'll receive slightly less than the melt value for the coins. That's a true statement. So I want you to be informed. So you know if you're getting a pretty good deal or really bad deal. Okay. And the reason is these are heavily circulated coins. They're called the junk silver coins, have a lot of wear and tear over the years with a reduced amount of silver content. Okay. So that's just reality. So here's that list that I promised to show you. That's kind of like what I was reading off of. Okay. The war nickel, and this is his actual uncirculated, newly minted silver content. So you look at this as 0.723, but I tell you the formula is 0.715. Okay? So if this is mint fresh off the mint, and there's none of those available unless they're advertised as uncirculated, mint fresh, or proof coins. Now they're much more expensive than times the face value. Now forget about this value that's calculated here because this was based on a $15 silver spot price. So you're just going to X all this out, blank it out, and whatever the silver spot price is, you put there and multiply it times. Okay, here we're going to have a reduced silver content even for the war nickels. You're not going to get this full content. That's mint fresh. Okay, now you can base it off the same thing of the 90% coins. Now, the wear and tear on the coins like the war nickel and the Eisenhower dollar and the Kennedy half dollar, it is actually less because those are hardened, more hardened coins. And so, excuse me, if you take your calculator and you do it with me, I can just kind of give you an example of what I do. And if I was going to sell, okay. So you can take the 0.715 and then divide it by the 0.7234, and you're going to see that that's 98.83%. So if I took the war nickel and multiplied it times that percentage, 0.05626 equal, I'd get 0.556. Notice 0.556 versus 0.5626. Okay, that would be a fair wear and tear melt value silver content for that coin. So you just ratio uh, the silver content in a 90% coin to the mint fresh coin, multiply that percentage. And so we do the same thing times the Kennedy, the 98.8% times the 0.14. Now, this is kind of, not many people do that because they don't deal a lot with the 40% or coins and the 35% war nickels, because many of the war nickels are worth more than even their silver content based on just the date and rarity of the coin. But then you're in a whole different uh, era of coin collecting, the old type of coin collecting versus the type we do in 7K with modern collectibles. Okay. So this chart's going to be available here for you. And so now where do we buy? And again, why do we even need junk silver? Well, we addressed why we needed junk silver. And I think everybody needs some. Now, these are verified, trusted sources I've been buying from for decades, uh, except for the last one. I've only been buying from for 8 years, but definitely a trust. Now, here's the key. These reputable dealers, they can't afford to have fake coins being sold. Not one. 7K can't afford to have a fake coin being sold. They're going to stand behind their coins 100%. Okay. And they mostly do all their checking themselves. So that gives me a sense of security. Now that's better than going down and dealing with a person. And I do not recommend buying anything off of eBay, Amazon when it comes to silver. I don't recommend buying anything off those sites. And that's me personally. Okay. I think your probability of getting stiffed with fakes is extremely high. Okay. And that's not, I just go by what I read and what I have seen and what I have seen others experience. Okay. So these are what I call and by the way, I get paid no money for you buying from any of these. I'm not, I don't get any referrals. I'm not an endorser or anything. I get this is just based on my own experience. And by the way, this is also based in order of priority where I think you can get the best deals. Okay. SD Bullion, JM Bullion, APMEX, Kitco. Okay. Now Kitco doesn't sell as much junk silver as they used to a decade ago. But they still do sell it. And so I recommend you get junk silver at the best price you can get it at. Yeah. Even at 7K, we don't get paid commission when people buy bullion. We just know it's a great place to buy from. And when we get bullion, we want to get bullion at our best possible price if we physically get it in our hand. 7K does something these others don't do when it comes to junk silver. They allow you to buy individual coins. Now, a couple of these will every once in a while, but for the most part, you're buying in bags and rolls or tubes, okay, of these coins. And a lot of people may not be able to afford that. They may only be able to buy one or two or three or four coins. That's called incremental purchasing. That's a great thing about the membership of 7K. Okay. And so we're going to look at each one of these. Okay. So let's go take a look at the where we buy and what the prices are. And let's use our formula to understand when we're buying what we're actually paying. Okay. So I've taught you the formula. We're going to learn how to use it now. So let me share my screen, go into our site. So let's go first to let's take them in reverse order so I can show you what I mean. Okay. So let's go to Kitco. Now, when you go to Kitco, now this is a great place for market information, for historical data, gold price, silver price, platinum price, palladium price, right? Many of the metals. Great historical content. I've taught this for years, where I get a lot of my data and information from. Kitco is a fabulous information source. So we're going to go but looking at purchasing. So it's buying and selling gold. And so we'll click on that link. Okay. So now notice they also have deals that they run. Just every major bullion seller will have sales from time to time. Let's just see real quick if they got any sales on in uh, in junk silver, and they don't have any going on right now in junk silver, none that they're advertising. So we're going to buy from Kitco, okay, and we're going to buy silver. Sometimes just to use their search function here. Okay, there it comes silver. And now silver, can I do this real quick? Otherwise, uh, I'm sorry, I didn't have that phone. There's 90% silver bags, $100 face value, and look, $2,529.55. But what are we paying for the silver? Okay, it's $100 face value. So how much silver content is that? I just showed you how to figure that out. You take $100 times 0.715, that's a formula, and you get 71.5 ounces of silver come in that bag. Okay. So you're paying $2,529.55. So you take 2,529.55 divided by 71.5 ounces, and you're paying $35.38 an ounce. The spot price right now, go up here at the top, we find spot. Well, typically they have, I'll tell you what, we're going to go over here to, let me try and shut that screen off. Let's go to 7K metals. Spot price is $35.77, $33.77. So we're paying approximately $1.60 above spot. $1.60 above spot if we buy that $100 face bag from Kitco. Well, I guess I lost it, but if we buy it there, so that was $22,529.55. Okay, so let's go to another dealer. Let's go to APMEX. APMEX is a dealer, one of the 14 authorized dealers in the U.S. Mint, and they buy and they also sell. They're kind of like 7K. Okay, except their prices are higher most of the time than 7K. Okay, and I've talked that before in the past. So, you know, they got a sale going on too. Everybody has sales going on. They got the 1 ounce Buffalo, $1.99 over spot, just in case anybody wants to know that. See, this is why I look at this stuff. Okay. But I'm just kind of looking to see if they got a sell on junk silver right now, and they don't. So let's go to silver, and then let's go now to find junk silver here with Kitco. We're looking for 90% silver. I'm trying to find junk silver. Junk silver. Oh, there it is over here. All junk. See, there's 90%, 40%, 35. You know, that's the war nickel right there. Okay. And then the Canadian, 80% Canadian silver coin. But we're going to talk about the US coin. That's the one that's known around the world. Okay. So they're going to pull them up. And here it is, 90% silver rolls and bags, tubes, rolls and bags. Let's look at that. We're going to look at that $100 face value bag. Okay. So let's just kind of scroll down a little bit. There's a $50 face value bag. Let's go to, there's Mercury dimes. There's the walk-in Liberties. That's a Franklin half. Okay. Trying to get the lowest price one so we can compare apples to apples. There's $100 walk-in Liberty. The walk-in Liberty is going to be the lower price because that's a 50-cent piece. I want to find one that has quarters or dimes. There you go. But that's $50 bag. Here's a $100 bag. That's a $50 bag. Here's some Mercury dimes. That's going to be a little bit higher. Here we go. Washington quarters. Okay. And we'll see that Kitco, that same 90% $100 face value bag at APMEX is almost $100 more than Kitco. Same bag. Now, here's the Roosevelt dimes, same amount of silver in it. I just taught you that. $100 face value has 71.5 ounces, troy ounces of silver in it. But it's 27.13. Why? Dimes smaller quantity, kind of like the 10th ounce gold coins versus the 1 ounce gold coin. You're paying 3,500 and something an ounce for the 10th ounce gold coins because you buy them at $356 per coin versus buying a gold coin at $2,700. Okay, 1 ounce gold coin, U.S. Eagle. I'm talking about. So we see that price is high. I'm going to show you something else. If you'll take one and divide it by 1 ounce, divide it by 0.715, and you're going to get is what we call a multiplier. And that's 1.39860. Everybody rounds it off to 1.4. So $1.4 per ounce of face value. That's the multiplier. So the multiplier, if you divide this is $100, so you're paying 27.13 multiplier times 1.4. So what are we paying per ounce? I'm going to just show you another way. Instead of figuring out the ounces, dividing it in, I'm taking the reciprocal of the 0.0715. And I just showed you how you calculate. You take 1, divide it by 0.715, and you get that. So let's take 27.13 times 1.4, and that means we're paying about $37.98 an ounce for those dimes. Has 71.5 ounces of silver in those Roosevelt dimes. Okay, so that was $37.98. So let's forget out the other way. Let's take 2,713 0.42. Let's divide it by those ounces of silver that we calculated. $100 face value times 0.715 equals 71.5 ounces. Divide that by 71.5. And sure enough, we come up with the same, basically the same price per ounce, $37.95. Okay. Okay. So you got to multiply that 1.4 and you just multiply it times the dollar value here. So you divide, you have to, if you got 100 face value, you got to divide it by 100. This is how I do quick calculations. And so let's go to JM Bullion now. So same thing. Number one, let's see if they got something on sale. I always like to check that first. I love checking sales. I don't know about you, but I get sucked in on these sales sometimes, especially when I'm, buy silver tone buffalo, $1.49 over spot. Uh-oh, it's taking me to it. Isn't that amazing? I just hovered over. But I want to go to 90% silver. There it is right there. Okay, you kind of have to look, or you use a search function. So let's just do 90% silver. Okay, let's not fool with the other ones. So, and they're going to all 90%. Let's get mixed silver because I want to show you something. Make sure you understand something. When you're buying a bag, if they have the dime and a quarter there together, or a quarter and a 50 cent, when you're buying, you're not getting a mixed bag. Then you'll read the fine print down in these dealers. They'll tell you it's their choice. You're going to get one of those coins they have in that picture. You're not going to get a mixed bag though. Okay, so if you want a particular 90% coin like a Roosevelt dime or a Mercury dime, you've got to buy that in that bag. Okay, that's why I was showing you some of the others. So you'll see this is circulated $half, and they'll do circulated. We'll talk about the non-circulated, and those are not worth buying. Those prices are way too high. Do not buy non-circulated, and they aren't worth the collectible value either. Okay, in terms of junk or what is called constitutional silver. Okay, so let's go and find our better priced one here. This is $500 face value. There's $100 face value. That's $half. But even the $half, that should be lower, and that is more than the quarter one at APMEX or Kitco. And that's very unusual for JM Bullion, I have to admit. Let's look at dimes and or quarters. There you go. But this is $500 face value. There's not much difference. I want to see the dimes, and they don't have them. Okay. Well, let's just click here and see what they got available in dimes and quarters. They may have a bag. And it's $500 bag. Here's $100. Okay, dimes and or quarters. There we go. Okay, there you go. See, sometimes it takes a little looking to get what you're looking for. Okay, now we're at a good price, $25.61. Now, it's just a little bit lower than Kitco was. Not much, and not any significant difference, but it says as low as, so we better check this out. Okay, so we got to click one more time, and yeah, we can get one bag. We can get $100 bag at $25.61. But of course, if we're paying with a card, we're going to pay $100 more. But if we're paying with ACH or check or wire, then we're going to get the cash price. Okay. Again, $25.64. Let's take the shortcut method. So I'm doing it fast. So I take the $100 face value, I divide that. So it's 25.61. I'm take 25.61 and I'm going to multiply it times 1.4, and I'm paying $35.85 an ounce for that. Okay. Spot is 33.93, 35.85. So I'm paying $1.80, $1.90 more than spot for this bag, $100 bag of either quarters or dimes, their choice. Okay. They are the ones that that will determine. So this one even tells us, JM Bullion's good. They'll tell you we didn't even have to calculate it, but that's what I just said. They tell us what they're doing, but I gave you the method of doing it real quick. Now, if you want to again figure it out the other way, you know $100 face value times 0.715 equals 71.5 ounces, troy ounces. Divide that 71.5 into the 2561.13, you're going to get the same thing. Okay, that's what you're paying per ounce, the 35.85. Okay, let's go to SD Bullion. Okay, now I'm going to save the SD Bullion last because they typically are the low-cost provider of junk silver, in my experience, unless another one of the other dealers have a sale going on and SD Bullion doesn't have the same sale going on. Okay, and this is typically where I purchase most of my, other than what I collected and saved over the decades, uh, where I've collected my extra uh, constitutional silver that I purchased. And I try to do it when SD Bullion has a sale going on. And since I'm very familiar with SD Bullion, and if you notice on each of these, uh, I have an account at each one of these places because I set up an account, got my payment in, so I can buy things quick when I want to buy them, just like we have an account at 7K Metals. Okay, so hey, look here, proof, but do not buy these things. They're too high. Okay, I don't want them. I'm just going to look real quick at their sale, see if they got junk silver on sale. They had it on sale last week. I had quite a few people buying it, and I bought some myself. I'm glad I did because I made money on my junk silver already. And anyway, I couldn't find any, so let's just go to silver. Let's go 90% junk. There it is, right there. Okay, and let's go to constitutional. Notice here it's constitutional silver and 90% fixed. So we can see that I've noticed of recent, pretty much the $10 face value versus the $100. If you'll notice, the price is the same. Basically, you're not getting a quantity discount. So you can buy a roll, $10 of quarters or $10 of dimes, and you're paying $256.52 for them. So how much is that per ounce? Well, if we're doing $10, we move the decimal place over one and we take 25.67, multiply it times 1.4, and we get 35.93. Not a bad price when the spot is 33.91. We paid $2 over spot for dimes. Now that's the smallest quantity. I want some of those, so I'm not giving too much away, and they can't give me anything back when I'm buying stuff. So it's good to have fractional, smaller quantity, like we used to buy the 10th ounce silver bullion round. Oh, remember those in 7K when we had them kind of out of stock? Can't get them. Well, here's $100 face value bag. Okay. Now, again, that it shows a quarter and a dime, a 25-cent piece and a 10-cent piece. Well, they choose what you want. So if you buy that, they will make the choice of do you get quarters or do you get dimes? Here you get to order what you want. You can specify, you can get dimes. Here, you're getting a 500, here's 1,000. Notice again, the price basically is the same. as buying $10 worth. Okay. Same thing with there. Here's Dime's random design. You pay a little premium here. It's $26.15 versus $25.65. Okay. So, but if you want Dimes, instead of taking a chance, this is where you buy right here. Now they had this on sale last week. Okay, you could have got it really pretty close to 25. Okay, but that depends on where silver goes. Now here you'll see that if you multiply that times 2, that'll be 171. That's a little bit more than the price we were just looking at in the bag for dimes right here. 26.17 to 71. Okay. So I had to multiply that times 2 because the face value was $5. So I had to get 10 and then move the decimal place over to look at the $100. That's really all you're doing. So you're getting either. So now let's go to 7K. Okay. So you got to log in. You got to go to your product section. Okay. And then you've got to go to Bullion. Okay. And then you scroll down. We want Bullion that's in stock, by the way. So I'll use the filter in stock. Okay. Now there's 1 ounce rounds, but notice 1 ounce rounds are $35.76. So we're paying about the same price, but those are 1 ounce. So you don't get the smaller quantities as in quarters, dollars, where you're getting less silver content. Okay. That's the whole point of junk silver is you got smaller quantity, smaller purchasing power quantities, but you're maintaining that high value silver purchasing power. And it's recognizable. People don't have, it's easy to test and it's very recognizable, even with the fakes that entered into the marketplace over the last few years. So what we do is we scroll down and find the bullion. There we go, sold individually. So see, here we've got quarters sold individually, and yep, that's 90% silver. So if you buy 10 of them here, that would be $93.20. Well, if you can buy 10 here, you can buy 10 at SD Bullion in a tube. Okay. But again, this is where you're buying individual. This is where you're buying either the dime at 284 each. Okay. So if you multiply times 10, that would give you $1 value. If you multiply times 100, that'd be $284. Then that'd give you $100 face value. Okay. And so you can compare your own. But here's what I tell people. If you don't have it, you can't afford to buy a tube. It's more expensive for you. You can't afford. How do you accumulate? Because you're not going to find it in the marketplace. You're not going to find it in your chain. That's just needle in the haystack. That virtually won't happen. But do you need it? I think everybody needs some junk silver. I think a minimum that everybody needs is $100 face value, and in mixed coins, okay, or at least $100 face value in dimes, okay. So you can order 1 or 2 of these, include it with a bundle shipping with your autosaver every month, and so you're accumulating some junk silver. Well, the 7K allows that to happen. The other providers do not. So that's the advantage that's another membership benefit in providing the ability to buy junk silver in affordable quantities over time for its members. And do we need junk silver? Absolutely. There's no doubt in my mind that we need junk silver. And a lot of experts agree with me. We need junk silver. I hope this has been beneficial to you. Uh, I hope it answers a lot of your questions. And if necessary, you can review this, get all the information you need from time to time, but make sure you get the charts that I showed you. Make sure you print them out in case electronics aren't available. That's going to be another important thing to have. Okay. Now, I didn't talk about making money with 7K or doing things like that, but I always like, anytime I do anything and I show anything about 7K, which I showed their products, showed the membership benefits, and we are a referral based income company. And, why not refer people to get a membership in 7K to get these benefits, even getting junk silver in affordable quantities? Okay. And then they can bundle their shipping and they can order when they have time, and then it'd be bundled so they can order something one week, next week, next week, next week, and get it in there and bundle shipping. Okay. But this is real income that people make their money at. People make this kind of income with 7K. I know because I'm one of them. And people make the average, people make the median, people make in between the median and high. We encourage you to take a close look at 7K as you've learned about constitutional or junk silver. I appreciate you time and attention. I hope this has been very beneficial to you. So tune in if you like what you've seen in in uh, in my YouTube recording, which it will be in YouTube. Then subscribe. It's a free subscription, and learn yourself more. Thank you.